Hey, Megan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Brittany, thanks for having me. I'm excited about this episode.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you. You're like wearing your shirt, like you are all set up. You're ready to go. Tell our listeners what you're wearing.
So, a couple of years ago, we came up with this shirt, and we wanted a shirt to, for not just men, women, children, right? Everybody. So, it's just, I support women with PCOS.
Boom. Right to the point, right? Right to the message.
Exactly.
That teal ribbon, is the teal known for PCOS?
Yes. Yep. Teal is the national color of PCOS, and that was created by Christine Zarm a couple of years ago. Well, not a couple of years ago. It's been quite a bit of time now. So she is like the mother of all PCOS awareness like organizations.
Whoa. How does one like get legislation on a color? That's interesting, right?
Right. I know that she had to get it recognized in the legislation, and then she had to I'm not really sure how she decided which color, but it's been that's the color it's been for a good like 20 plus years now.
I love that color. I love that color. So
Same.
that's interesting. Whoever is out there, professional, like National Day color organizer, hit us up. We want to know more. Let's kick off this interview with some information about you and your background. So our listeners love to hear about our guests, where you're from, what did you study? How did you end up here?
How much time do you have? No, just kidding. Yeah, so let's see. I was actually born in Boston, Massachusetts. Go Celtics. And I was moved to Seattle, Washington when I was young. My parents, they migrated over that way when I was about 5. And so I was raised in Seattle, just outside of Seattle in a town called Renton, Washington, that's where I grew up. Lived on a little 5-acre farm and had horses, goats, bred dogs. What else did we have? Yeah, it's just a very interesting little family, right?
Yes.
So I recently moved, 4 years ago, I moved to Virginia, where I reside now. And I actually work outside of my nonprofit organization. I work a day job, which is for Capital One. Yes, what's in your wallet? I love the company. It's amazing. Let's see here. I actually have my bachelor's in business administration with a focus in project management. For Capital One, I am the executive assistant for the chief model risk officer. And that's like my life right there.
So where does PCOS come into all this?
Absolutely. So I actually started showing symptoms of PCOS when I was about 9, but I was not formally diagnosed until I was 16. So between the ages of 9 and 16, my mother knew that something was wrong. She saw it in me. Again, did horses, basketball, volleyball, just was a very active little kid. But from like the ages of 9 to about 11, 12, I literally gained like 80 pounds. And my mom was like, something is wrong. So she was shuffling me back and forth to doctor, and specialist over here and homeopathic over here. And, she was just taking me all over the place. And after I can't even tell you how many doctors that she took me to, but after a few years, finally, my OBGYN in Seattle, she formally diagnosed me with PCOS. Unfortunately, at that time, it was not just PCOS, it was cervical cancer. So at the age of 16, battling cervical cancer, that was like my focus. Didn't really have much information at the time about PCOS. So it was just kind of like oh, come see me when, you know, you're ready to have children. And at that time I was like, kids, you're funny. So I didn't even think about like anything to do with PCOS. It was really just about the cervical cancer and getting my health in control, and thinking about the future there. But then I beat cervical cancer at that time. And around age 21, I was actually re-diagnosed with cervical cancer. So second time cervical cancer, and I was really struggling at that time also with my like weight, hair loss and hair growth, other places. And it, like, I just remember there was a point I was working at the Boeing company, and I was just like keeled over at my desk and in pain, just pelvic pain, so much pain. And I called my mom, and she was like, I'll meet you at the ER. So on my little drive to the ER, right? They literally told me in the ER, the attending nurses, they were like, there's nothing we can do. You've had some cyst rupture on your ovaries. That's just, you've been diagnosed with PCOS. That's just life for you. And my mom, to this day, she says that when we were walking out of the ER, she saw it in my face. She was like, uh-oh, something's about to happen. What's about to happen? Because I was just so unsatisfied with that answer, right? Like, I just have to live with it. Just live with it. And it was like, no, there's something else. Something needs to be done. So I like started researching PCOS online, and at the time there was really no information or resources available. And to me, it was like, well, if I can't be the only person, you know, suffering from this something, some other people have to be dealing with this. And I began making, because I'm very close to my family, and so my family kept asking, my extended family kept asking, well, what's going on? How are you? What's happening? Well, what's PCOS? Like, what is happening? And so I actually started making like little handmade bracelets in the color teal, because I found out the official color was teal. I had started making handmade bracelets and was giving it out to family and friends, and was saying, okay, this is what PCOS is. I have it. Take this and learn more about it and spread the word, right? And so next thing I knew, I had a family member, she actually posted it on her Instagram. This was like when Instagram first came out, right? She posted on her Instagram and her Facebook. And next thing I knew, I was being contacted by people all over the world asking me, hey, I have PCOS, never seen a bracelet like this. Where can I get it? And I was like, okay, well, let me just start, you know, handing out this bracelet. And so after a couple of months of doing that, I realized, okay, yeah, I'm not the only one. Like, something needs to happen. So I started selling the bracelet actually for like $5. And I was taking the proceeds, and I was, I started PCOS Awareness Association, so with the proceeds. So here we are today, 12 years later, or actually, I'm sorry, 9 years later, and it's just been like a blessing in disguise, right?
Wow, I have a lot of questions.
Ask away.
Story. Oh my goodness. Okay, so before we get into the organization, which I definitely want to spend a lot of time on, but first, so you said you started to experience symptoms around 9 years old. Is that because that your period started, or is that just like normal for PCOS, or?
So actually my periods did not start. That was one of the signs. So my mother, they say that you take after your mother when it comes to your menstrual cycle.
Okay.
My mom actually started her menstrual cycle at an early age, and around 9, she was like, you're not getting it. What's happening? Like, I started mine. What's going on? And so, yeah, she kept taking me to doctors, and they were like, it's fine. She just needs to lose weight. One doctor told her it was in my head. Everything was, all the pain and everything was in my head, and that I just needed to get out of my head and I'd be fine. Another doctor told her that it was just normal puberty. she just, my mom literally just felt that no, these answers were not right. Like something else was wrong. I had started to like, grow hair on my face and lose hair on my head. Just, and then the mood swings. The mood swings were not normal for puberty. Yeah, you have mood swings. You go through that teenage stage, but no, mine were literally depression and anxiety. Like it was just high. And she just kept saying, nope, something else is wrong.
Women know. We have intuition, and listeners, if you are currently having symptoms of something and doctors are saying no, and if you believe there's something wrong, continue to look for the answer. Continue to advocate for yourself. Definitely.
Right.
So glad that
and I've told countless people, sometimes we feel like because they're doctors, they're medical professionals, that we just need to listen. But at the same time, two things. My mom has always said there's a reason why they call it practicing medicine. Because they're practicing, they don't have all the answers. And then two, you have every right to find another doctor. If you aren't getting the answers that you are expecting, or the information that you're hoping for, you have every right. You got to remember that we're paying them. Like they're not paying us to give us the answers. No, we're paying them. So if you just feel just like if you went to the store or a restaurant and you didn't get the right meal that you ordered, you're going to say something, right? So same thing. You're paying for a service. So you have every right to speak up.
Yep. You have every right to feel healthy and happy. I think that medicine is like, well, women, if they're at least decently feeling fine, if they're feeling okay, that's good. That's good enough. And it's like, no, we deserve to feel amazing, like super healthy.
Correct.
And so the cervical cancer thing, is that just like a crazy fluke, like unfortunate situation, or is PCOS and cervical cancer associated at all?
There are studies that do say that PCOS can cause cervical cancer and uterine cancer. There's studies out there that say that it can cause all gynecological cancers. So, including breast cancer. So, to me,
that's
it's like
hormones and, right. Wow.
Correct.
Well, I do not have PCOS, but I do have a history of cysts on my ovaries. My first one was when I was 13. I remember telling my mom, like I had some pain in my side, and my mom kept saying, no, you have gas, go lay down, like you got gas. And I'd be like, okay, because it was just like, I don't know what it was. And eventually it was like, no, something's wrong. And she was like, okay, yeah, let's go to the doctor. We went, they said, you have a cyst on your ovary. I'd get surgery within the week to get it removed.
Oh, wow.
That was my first experience. And then I got put on birth control. And then when I was 21, I was like changing birth controls, and I got at least 2 cysts that both ruptured. And I know, like, no one's diagnosed me. I didn't go to the doctor, but I know what happened in my body because I could feel that I like bent over, something changed. And I was like, oh, okay, this is weird. I don't understand. And I have never felt such pain in my life. Like I had to lay down on luckily I was home both times, lay down on the bathroom tile floor because I felt so like sick.
Yeah.
Nice I've never had so much pain that I was sweating because it was so bad. And it was crazy. And like,
it's the weirdest feeling. There's just nothing you can do about it, right? Like it just happens. It's not like you can say, stop that.
No, I've never felt anything like that. And, and eventually it passes, and I would kind of feel sore afterwards. But like the solution to it is like, take your birth control. Don't let eggs come out, because that's when the cysts form. And it's like, well, now I'm 29. So I'm going on like whatever 29 minus 13. Like that long of birth control simply to like avoid the situation. So is that similar for PCOS, where the solution is kind of like get on birth control, or what else is the solution right now?
Yeah, absolutely. That is the number one thing that they medical providers prescribed for PCOS is birth control. They also prescribe metformin, which is a medication for diabetes. So PCOS tricks your body into believing that you're diabetic. So that's where the insulin resistance comes in. And that's where the weight gain comes.
That's weight gain.
So they prescribe metformin in hopes that it'll get your insulin under control. That, and I've heard of, let's see, spironolactone, which is a diuretic. And then there's just, yeah, but mostly they say they feed you birth control pills, right? And to me, for me, I was also the same. They put me on birth control pills. But for me, birth control pills masked the underlying issues, right? Because as soon as you said, you came off of birth control pills and there were the cysts. So
within 60 days, I had 2 exploded cysts and I poisoned my insides. And I was like, well, I'm going to go back on the pill. Like that was terrible.
Yeah, exactly. And that in itself is scary, just to know that if I come off of this pill, what else is going to happen? Like what else is happening? So I've actually weaned myself off of birth control pills. I've done it a couple of times just to see where I'm at.
Yeah.
And then the most recent time that I did such, I actually did acupuncture instead of birth control pills. And that helped me regulate my hormones. And since doing acupuncture, my menstrual cycle comes regularly. I ovulate perfectly. Everything's just been in alignment that way. Now, if only I can just get other things in alignment, right? like the first time I did acupuncture, I actually had lost like 50 pounds. So it helped just as a whole, right? Helped me as a whole, and it gave me that energy needed to get out there and go for walks, and gave me that little boost that I needed. And so that's something that I personally do. Again, with PCOS and with any other women's medical issue, I definitely suggest people finding what works for them, right? If birth control pills work for you, go for it. If all natural works for you, go for it. A lot of people are talking about the keto diet. If keto works for you, go for it. That's the one thing that my organization prides ourselves on, is that we don't ever tell anybody what they should not do, right? We just give you all of the information behind all of these different avenues that you can do. And then it's up to you to make that sound decision for yourself, because what works for one is not going to work for the next.
That's right. Because just like how women are not little men, even women are different. We're different races, we're different sizes. We were talking to somebody a few weeks ago about the COVID vaccine and women and our health. And I mean, obviously I'm very pro science and pro vaccine, but we were talking about vaccines for kids are smaller dose because they're literally smaller, but men and women get the same dose. And it's like, if statistically women are smaller, like why do we not incorporate these things? So whatever works for you ladies, keep doing it. But if, Megan, you had a magic wand, and would you wish that there was like a pill for PCOS that like fixed it? Or what do you wish, if you had all the money, all the researchers, everything in the world, what do you wish there was?
I think that back in the day, I would have answered that question, most definitely a magic pill. Only because, without knowing that, when I first started my journey, I thought everybody was the same. But now, knowing that everybody's different, I just think that magic pill, it would need to be definitely very, very magic, right? It would need to conform to, right? It would need to conform to every person, because my PCOS does not look similar as somebody else's PCOS. Right. So I think one of the things that I ultimately would wish is that, we get to the bottom of this. because again, it manifests itself in so many different ways. And then two, we don't even know where it came from, right? Like nobody knows its origins or how it even happens in the body. So
we don't know if it's genetic or anything. We have no idea. Oh my
they
God.
say it's genetic, but then, you know, I look at my own family and I'm like, there's nobody else in my family. So what's genetic? Like, am I like the first?
Yeah, you're the
the first of the family? So is everybody after me going to like, so yeah, I've heard so many different theories, and they're all just theories, right? Because there's just no correct. We absolutely need research. And that is one of the things that PCOS Awareness Association helps fund. So we've teamed up with Illusion Labs out of Cornell University, and they are the only research laboratory that is trying to get to the bottom of PCOS. Most of the other research laboratories, they're researching like weight loss pills or fertility or the depression and anxiety. They're researching the symptoms of PCOS. They're not researching going back. Like, let's take a step back. Like, maybe if we figure out where this actually came from, that will give us a brighter answer into how to go forward with it.
Yeah,
totally.
So
yeah.
Well, that is, shocking yet not surprising that there is one laboratory studying this. I think there's like one laboratory studying Alzheimer's specifically, and it's like, okay, y'all, there's so much money in like heart disease. There's so much money in cancer. There's so much money in brain health and dementia, but all of that, let me back up. The majority of that money is going towards male dominated research rather than like, what's the estrogen angle here? Like what's the female angle here? Because we know it manifests differently in different rates. Speaking of rates and prevalence, how prevalent is PCOS?
Ooh. So when I first started, the statistic was 1 in 10. That has recently changed to 1 in 5. So we're talking 1 in 5 women, and it's crazy because I literally go around counting now, right? I'm horrible. I'm that person that sits in a crowd of women and I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you.
Yes.
I literally can see that picture in my mind, but yes, most recent numbers are 1 in 5, and we're talking about 10 million women worldwide.
Wow.
And over half of them, as we said before, we know something's wrong with our body, but we have not been diagnosed. So over half of them have not been formally diagnosed.
So that's why the 1 in 5 sounds a lot bigger than 10 million women, because millions of those women don't even know that that's what's happening, because they probably had a cyst, they got put, who knows, maybe I have PCOS, I have no idea, right? Like I've been on birth control since I was 13, and like, because I had a cyst, and that's just like, that was like kind of the end of the story.
They were like, here, take these.
13-year-old Brit being like, all insecure about my little 13-year-old body. Like, I don't even know what was happening. Let's talk more about your association now. So you said that you support research. Like, why else? Like, it makes sense to have an awareness association, right? And you're selling these bracelets, but like, what else has come out of it that you're realizing like, wow, these are initiatives that needed to happen, and that's what we're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So we pride ourselves on a couple of pillars. One, the advocacy portion, the research portion, and then we do, research, resources, support, and information. So those are our 5, stronghold pillars that hold us up. It's amazing to me that the second you walk out the door and you are open about your women's health issues, how many other women come up to you and they're like, me too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
It's
I give
absolutely amazing.
talks now about femtech, and just this week I gave a talk about femtech. Woman came up to me afterwards. She was like, "I've had a yeast infection for 4 years," and I'm like, "Oh my God! First of all, bless you. Second of all, like this is why we need femtech, because doctors are just like, sorry, girl, I don't know what to do about your vulva. Like, you're just gonna have to live with the yeast." And so yeah, these stories are endless. So I'm sure that you get them all the time.
All the time. I was, so one of the things that we kind of how I built the base of PCOS AA is that I was thinking locally. This is when I was in Seattle. I was thinking very locally at the time, and it was like, how do I raise that awareness, and how do I reach people? So I started signing up to host booths at like health fairs and at local little community fairs and whatnot. And I would just, sit at my booth, and people would come by, and it's crazy to see, you got the sign in back of you that says PCOS Awareness Association all big, and the table's all teal. And if anybody's listening and you know me, you know that I'm an absolute fan of glitter. Like if it sparkles and shines, it's me. So like my table is like bedazzled out, right? And because it catches the eye, and you just see people walk by and they stop for a second because the glitter catches their eye, and they stop and they look over and they're like, "Hey, PCOS? I have PCOS." And they come like streamlining to you, and they're like, "Tell me more. What's this about? I need to know more about this." And so it was very prevalent to me that information needed to be clarified, not really that the information wasn't out there. It just needed to be housed in a better place to that provided all of the information, right? So that's the information portion. And then resources. Another thing that I realized was that, there was a couple of nonprofits out there that were dedicated to PCOS, but none of them gave me, like, they said, "Oh yeah, so PCOS causes hirsutism, which is the excessive hair growth on your face." And then that was it. In my mind,
Okay.
right? In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so how do I, what do I do?
Wax fatigue? Like, where do I go? What do I do?
Do I, pray to God and just hope that it's just right? Like, what do I do? So we have, in the past, we've teamed up with things like, especially when I was local in Seattle, it was local laser hair removal places, local estheticians that also offered electrolysis, hair removal, or even waxing. It's just little resources like that. And then it started growing into larger resources, such as it became very clear that everybody that was contacting me, they were low income and didn't have access to healthcare insurance or low income based medical providers. So then I did research on who I could team up with to bring that option in. We found an organization called Needy Meds, and they have low income clinics all over the US. And they then, we had pamphlets at the time. They had our pamphlets in their clinics, and then they offered us a free drug discount card. So anybody that used the drug discount card would get like 80% off of their spironolactone, their metformin, or their birth control pills. Wow. So these type of resources just became, big for the organization. And then we teamed up with just recently. So this one was a big one for me because a couple of years ago, I received, when I was running our social media, there was a message into our Facebook social inbox, and it was a gal who was highly depressed about her PCOS, so depressed that she was talking about suicide. And that scared me. It broke my heart. It scared me, and I tried to keep her, keep the mood light and bring her to a spot where she could, I felt safe with leaving her be. But after a few minutes, she just totally didn't respond. And so at that point, I'm like frantically on Facebook, looking at her profile page, finding out where she lived, calling the 911, local 911, to get them to go out and do just check, a wellness check on her. So I never found out what the outcome of that story, but that in itself was scary. And me, myself, going through depression, I know that point, right? So we teamed up with a company called Crisis Text Line. Mm-hmm. So if you text PCOS to 741-741, you get instant access to a crisis text counselor that is, qualified to handle those type of situations, because I sure wasn't qualified. And that was probably the scariest part, right? Is that I was not qualified to handle something like that. But those type of resources are huge for our organization. And we've got a slew of them on the website. If anybody, needs some sort of resource or assistance, the website is where to go.
That is so important. And it's really interesting to see this mental health be weaved into women's health so much, because of our conditions not being believed, of our pain not being believed, of the lack of solutions, of the, just like I said, I had that cyst explode, you were at work and you had a cyst, like just the uncertainty of pain. And then this feeling of isolation, like you're the only one who has this thing. All of that is just like pure kindlewood for mental illness,
Absolutely.
Isolated, hopeless, pain, like that is it, right? You mentioned before low income, populations. Is PCOS more prevalent in those communities, or is it just that they were reaching out to you because they needed some more support?
That's a good question. That's actually a very good question. So over the last couple of years, we've done a survey that we put out, and that is one of the questions in the survey, and just to see what our demographics are. And we are finding that 80% of our demographics are low income. So I think me personally, I think those that are in desperate need of help are the ones that are, aren't finding the help and can't afford the help that they need. Then you have people like, Victoria Beckham, who has PCOS. She has no problem, right? There's no problem, because she's got all of the money in the world to be able to afford personal trainers, personal chefs, right? All of the resources that are needed just to manage PCOS.
She wakes up and goes and sleep to acupuncture. You kidding me? She's got her own personal one. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like the people that are in more need are those that are not able to afford the avenues that others.
Yeah, got it. What are some of the future goals for your organization?
To be great. No. Yeah, I think that right now, so I have to say that it's really difficult being, as you probably know, grassroots organization, running it day to day. Our whole board and all of our volunteers, so board, including myself, we are all volunteers. No one within the organization gets a paycheck. This is on our own time. This is because our passion, and this is just what we want to do, right? So one of the things that we have found over the last 9 years is that I have come to the realization is that I can't expect anybody to have the same passion as myself, right? Like I have to allow that lead way for people to be like, okay, well, I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, that's fine. We'll move on.
I remember when I started to learn that lesson, like, wait, people aren't as obsessed with things as I am? Like, oh.
Like, what do you mean? That's so rude.
You're like, okay, we're doing like 50% of the, excitement. Like I'm 110% kind of lady. Like, so I totally
That's
get
me.
Yeah.
That's 100% me. Like my team, we have a solid team now, and it's taken again 9 years to get here. We have a pretty solid team. And the ultimate like goal and dream is that, one, we definitely want to help as many people as possible. And two, there are some like programs and projects that that we have ideas about and we would love to put forward, but it's that financing part that you were talking about earlier with research and whatnot that is the most difficult thing, right? There's a project that I have been working on for the last like 3 years now that I want to release, but it's not to the point where I can release it just yet. And it's something that I feel like is going to help that younger PCOS crowd, right? If I would have known about PCOS at the age of 9, that could have helped me to 16, right? Also, I feel like PCOS should be something that is in that, I don't know if you remember, like what, fifth, sixth grade, we had the sex ed class and where they split up the boys and the girls.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
And this is what happens. You could have PCOS. Like, I feel like that should be a discussion in that class. So this project that I've been working on the last couple of years is something that would bring that up in that class. So
because then you could have gone home with a packet and your mom being like, something's wrong, comes home.
Read this.
Be like, check. Wow, babe, you got all these symptoms. Now we have material to bring with us to the physician,
Correct. Absolutely correct. And then also, we just launched kind of a network that we've built, and it's called Shades of Teal. And if somebody joins Shades of Teal, they're privy to swag, any events that we have going on. We are also in the process of building courses. So we're hoping to have a course for PCOS patients and one for medical providers. So we had learned through the grapevine that PCOS is literally like a paragraph in the medical book, right? So it's like, here's PCOS. Okay, see you later. Bye.
1 in 5 women, but 1 paragraph is all it gets. Yeah.
Correct. Great. So we want to build some sort of course and we've been working with the World Health Organization and the CDC and a couple of other organizations to make sure that this course is up to par to be able to offer continuing medical education credits for medical providers with this course. And then 2 years ago, we started a new journey called PCOS Con. And that is our biannual event. And it's a 3-day event. So this year marks the 2nd year, but due to the pandemic, we decided to go ahead and do this year's event virtually. So that event is September 17th through the 19th. And I believe our event planner, she just released the agenda today on the PCOS Con website. So it's a jam-packed agenda. I was looking, I have it right here, and it's a jam-packed agenda. Like literally, there are speakers all day, so on all sorts of topics. I'm pretty excited about this, and then there's a lot of different things. We had teamed up with an organization called Amino a few years ago. And they were offering us a search engine to be able to search for PCOS specialists in, close to you. Mm-hmm. And it was a data-driven search engine based off of the ICD-10 codes, like which medical providers use the PCOS ICD-10 codes the most.
Yeah.
And that generated this list. Unfortunately, Amino recently, in the last year, they decided that this service now needs to be paid for. So we decided, okay, well, we're not going to pay. We don't have the funds to pay for this as much as we would like to. But then it also, when we were really diving into this service, we were realizing that things like acupuncture, dietitians, nutritionists, and stuff weren't included because they don't necessarily use ICD-10 codes. So we wanted to open this up to all specialists, PCOS specialists. So we started a PCOS directory. Ooh. And anybody that is a PCOS specialist, they can go and sign up for the directory and be listed for free within the directory. And any person that's looking for a PCOS specialist in their area, they just go onto the directory and you can search in your area for a specialist. So that is still the bugs and the kinks are still being worked out. It's live on our website, but again, the kinks still are being worked out. And we apologize for anybody that's been emailing us about those kinks, but we are working on it. We promise.
Great. I'll give them some grace. Well, this has been so amazing. If someone's listening and they're like, I need more, how do they learn more? How do they stay in touch? How do they, what should they do?
Absolutely. So of course the website, so www.pcosaa.org. And then we are on all social media. So we are on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and I'm forgetting one, but for the life of me, I can't remember. Twitter. Thank you. Twitter. Yes. So most of them are our names on them are PCOS AA. So just look us up and we will pop up.
Awesome. Megan, this has been so amazing. I have two last quick questions for you that our listeners really love. The first one is, if someone wanted to start a FemTech company, what's an area in women's health and wellness that still needs innovating?
All. All. So it's crazy that you asked that question because I told you that I struggled with cervical cancer. So I was actually just in this past February also diagnosed with vulvar cancer. So vulvar cancer, there's no information. Wow. So, and it's like, why is there no information about this? So I feel like if you or anyone a loved one that you know, is suffering from some sort of women's health issue, start something. Start anywhere. You're not going to be stepping on any toes. As of right now, there's only 4 PCOS nonprofit organizations out there. There's no organizations for vulvar cancer. There's just there's so many avenues that can be touched. So yeah, if you or anybody is struggling with something, research, find out. If there's nothing going on, start it.
That's right. Wow. Wow. You are such a warrior. Seriously. Wow. Leader.
Thank you.
And the last question we have is, what do you think the FemTech industry as a whole needs the most right now in order to be successful?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that innovation piece is key, especially now that we're moving into the more digital world. Just in the name, FemTech, right? Technology is, and the innovation in technology is well needed. And if anybody's looking for anything, come my way.
Do you think, are there tech companies working on PCOS that you're excited about?
There are a couple of women's health organizations that are working on different aspects, different symptoms of PCOS, but nothing as a whole, right? There is a gal that is working on an app for PCOS, but that app is just going to be so big because there's so many symptoms, right? There's so many different ways to go that she's reached out a couple of times to talk about different things, but I feel like there could be more in that space.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Poly. But they're not necessarily saying PCOS, they're saying hormone balancing.
Mhm.
And I know they're still early stage. They're not launched yet. So
Yeah.
obviously lots of space here to
Lots
make
of,
change using tech. I love it. Well, Megan, thank you so much for your time today. What you're doing is so important. I'm going to definitely get myself some swag, shades of Teal. I love it. And thank you so much for your time today.
yeah, thank you, Brittany. I really enjoyed this.